Welcome to our live broadcasting of Being Abundance podcast. My name is Koen Buchter, and I'm here with my great friend, Sujit Ravindran. And Sujit Ravindran is a contemporary mystic. So nice to see you again, Sujit.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Kuhn. You know, the greatest distinction I can offer is to say that you're a luminous light as a friend in my life. And like we do always, shall we start off with a little recentering for ourselves and the listeners?
Oh man, I was looking forward to that so much.
Uh,
Let's do that.
Lovely. There you go. So, around you, if you have any electronic devices, anything that you don't need for our chat for the next hour, exactly, throw it in the garbage bin, but don't forget to put it on silence first and away from your energy field. And find a comfortable position where you can be seated with your feet preferably on the ground and your spine straight and free from your backrest. Gently close your eyes and bring your attention inwards to your body. There is a whole world of sensations within your body. Observe. Connect with the sensations within. Observe any ease or lightness that you feel anywhere. Observe any heaviness or discomforts anywhere. Remain aware of your whole body as you breathe deeply into your belly and release. Once again, continue to remain connected with your body as you return back into this conversation, and we can resume.
It's really nice to take a moment for silence, the place where the creative mind arises. Thank you, Sujit, for holding space in this beautiful recentering. Today, we dive into the world of abundance. Again, being abundance. You've written a beautiful book, The Seven Laws of Abundance. And today, I would like to talk with you about the law of exchange. Um, but for the people that didn't saw us the last time, just let me give a short introduction of who you are. You are a contemporary mystic. You help countless souls around the world, from people in jail and to people that are actually leading the European Council, people that are in the Mexican government, people for the United Nations. A lot of people
Mm.
are coached by your ancient wisdom from India. And well, I have to say, I'm very fortunate and very happy to have you in my life. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you, Kuhn. You know, it's interesting you should say about jail. You know, most of us, Kuhn, some way or the other, aren't we in jail? You
Well,
know, some form of bondage that we've created in our life and bondage is the opposite of the inner state of abundance. So I'm amused a little bit, with the word jail, both physically and metaphorically.
yeah. Well, I want to understand actually what you say with that. I understand we all have a body and we all have conditioning. We all have a mind. We are grown up in a certain way. Is that what you consider as sometimes for people a jail, like a jail that we are in the sense of that we are not completely free of experiencing this abundance that the universe is?
Um, Very much, Kun. All of that and more. I can reduce it down to the basic, at least the way I relate to it in my life, but also from my mystical tradition. And before I jump in there, of course, Kun, I shouldn't forget to for the sake of refreshing the memory of our audience, shouldn't forget to remind them of Kuhn, the Buchter, the conscious journalist, this incredible adventure with your local heroes, um, your great passion for the last 10 years or so that I've known you, the passion that you have for human interest stories
Mm.
that makes you very special. So, this whole inquiry of abundance together with you, it acquires a realness every time I explore this with you. So, thank you for holding space for this ongoing practice for both of us.
Wow, you're very welcome. Thank you for your kind words.
You know, two words that come to me when I really, for me, the opposite of the experience of abundance means, these two words. One is conditioning,
Mm.
and two is attachment.
Mm.
These two words are not really very different from each other from a holistic perspective.
Mhm.
You know, conditioning. I look at my two little kids and I look at um, they are like a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah, they are.
A blank sheet of paper. I look at that, it's a blank canvas. It's a field of infinite possibilities. It is a field of limitless potentiality. Anything can be expressed on it. That you can take that white canvas and anything can be made out of it. And that limitlessness is unconditioning.
Hmm.
That unconditioning, it is, the opposite of which is like as we continue to grow up every day, one experience after the other, one experience after the other, it just keeps conditioning us. That we build our habits and patterns through all that conditioning, the way we grew up with our parents, the things we picked up from our teachers and fellow students,
Mm.
from the media, from our neighborhood, from the playground. Everything forms a conditioning, like layers and layers of the onion. And
Yeah.
at the very core of that onion still remains that abundant self, that infinite self.
Mm.
You peel the layers of the onion, peel it, peel it, peel it, peel it. And at the very core, at the heart, there is no seed.
What do you mean there is no seed? There is nothing there. There is no content. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. There is that nothingness, which is also content.
Mm.
In India, we use the word akasha to represent, space,
Yeah.
which is also an element. And that is that space, that element is the unconditioned self, that nothingness, the blank slate, that, clean sheet of paper, which can become anything. That is the abundant self. And this conditioning that we go through, with that conditioning also, of course, all patterns, habits, etc., form, which is limiting. And we also build all forms of attachment,
Yes.
the needs, the things that we get attached to, the people that we get attached to. And that is also a form of jail, that somehow my inner well-being gets entangled through that attachment with that object or person that I'm bound to.
Mm.
That if I don't have my television, or if I don't have my football, or I don't have my lover or partner, or I don't have my video game, or my friends, or whatever it is, I don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
You see, there's a level of bondage there. And I'm amused that this should come up just because you use the word jail.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've read your book also, The Seven Laws of Abundance, and in the introduction there is a woman, and she asks, "How do I attract abundance into my life?" And she seemed like someone who had plenty, yet the struggle in her voice was evident when she asked that question. And the answer of the guru is, align yourself with the universe. The universe is generous. So to align yourself with the universe, does that mean that we have to give space to that openness, that blank page, that we are in the core, that we are actually open and not necessarily in a place of neediness? Is that what you're sharing?
All of it, all of it.
Mm.
At the very primordial essence, that aligning with the universe, it might feel a little counterintuitive for many people, by the way, Kun. Um, we all know people who believe that abundance creation is a consequence of action.
Yeah.
Like
That
if I
you
go
have to
ahead, go
do
for it.
something. Yeah, you have to do something to actually get abundance. So let's say money. To get money, you have to work
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of sweat and toil. The harder you work, the more abundance comes to you, which is actually not very intuitive, because,
Mm.
we all know many people in our lives who, work really, really, really hard every week, and yet material abundance or even holistic abundance evades them.
Yeah.
And we have, in the kind of world we live in, most of us, we've created a notion that all I need to do is to roll up my sleeves and just go at it, doingness, 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 and abundance will ensue.
Mm.
And what the mystics know is something completely different, and not so exclusive from the doingness, but different. And that is, it's got abundance is a response to your beingness. And I'll keep a lot of this a little bit suspense, now for next week, because next week we are going to explore the second law of abundance, which is the law of echo.
Yes.
And this, at the time, I'll completely unpack the secret of how embodying the inner state of abundance consciousness is going to manifest outwardly uh, through material abundance, in the
Wow.
form of material abundance. But we'll keep that all a little suspense for now.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get a good outlook on what is abundance by asking you a very simple question, Sujit. What made today your day abundant?
Mm, wow. Um, instead of connecting back to the things I received today, allow me to connect back to two occasions where I was very much in the inner state of abundance, the abundance consciousness. One is, early this morning, um, I I spent some quality minutes with my fellow authors on the next book that's going to come out on the 15th of May this year.
Mm.
And
What is the
spending those,
title?
that title, that book is going to be called Subtraction.
Okay.
Yeah, so the title is Subtraction. The subtitle is The Subtle Art of Unleashing the Boundless Innovator
Hmm.
within.
Okay.
So it's which is in the mystical world, the idea of subtraction is a very native idea. There's nothing strange about it, though. In the type of world that most of us we live in this worldly plane, we always look in terms of addition. If I want to become a great football player, I must add skills to it.
Yeah.
If I want to become a musician, I must add something. If I want to get wealthy, I must add something. If I have to innovate, I must add something. Yet the simple understanding is that that infinite self, you can call him the Superman, the super coon within. you know um, the process for you to access the super coon is a process of subtraction.
Yeah.
And
But
this
you
book is
yeah.
just laying out, it's just unpacking the science of how to subtract and return to that super coon.
Yeah. Well, you share now a bit about the book, but you also mentioned this book because I asked you what
Yeah.
made your day abundant. So what made your day abundant, Sujit?
Super cool. Thank you for keeping me on track. I can go in all kind of directions, but true. In the morning, a few minutes I spent with these two co-authors and friends, and you know this elation, this ecstasy of abundance, of infinite that is around me. I was reminded of that in
Hmm.
that moment. So I was in that inner state of abundance, elation. And the second was we went to a government office this morning for some of my paperwork, administrative stuff. And, the genuine care, excitement, smile, the spirit of service with which that lady behind the counter was in service for something which is seemingly so mundane, which can be so transactional. I could have gone there and I could have just, hi, this is what needs to be done. And she could have simply, like, yes, sir, here it is. And she could have just done her thing on the computer and then done. It wasn't like that. It was a very rich moment of togetherness, of
Hmm.
laughter, of smile, of kindness, of consideration. It was nice. There was, I really felt like this real beingness of abundance. So
Wow.
that's two grateful moments of abundance today.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
allow
you go
me,
ahead.
allow me, allow me,
Yeah.
super
Go ahead.
cool. You know, what were the moments, or what was a moment of abundance for you today?
Well, when I stood up this morning and I took a shower, and I felt that I was not only cleansing my body, but I felt like really like letting go of a lot of things that I experienced the last week. And the moment that I let go of all the emotions and all that I experienced, I felt a deep calm, a deep rest within me. And that felt as abundance. Like I felt like very, very grateful for being alive, actually, for something so simple and yet also so beautiful. It is simple,
Wow.
but also extraordinary to be alive. So to breathe
Hmm.
in and to breathe out, I'm very grateful for that. And that feels as abundance. And of course, also today, when I see my children play, my two daughters, and I see how effortless they are in their play, then I see also a beautiful example of abundance.
Wow.
And when I share this with you, I would like to say to the viewers who are watching live on Facebook and YouTube, please share also what made your day abundant, because we're very curious. And if you have a question for Sujit or for me or for us about abundance in any way, could be financial, could be abundance if it comes to self realization or being at service for other people, every way of abundance. If you have a question, please ask us. So, Sujit, the law of exchange. It is the first law of the seven laws in your book. Could you share a bit more so that we understand this law of exchange? Maybe also with giving some examples.
Very much. Before I jump in there, Kuhn, allow me to acknowledge what you just shared.
Mm,
That the connection with the experience of abundance you had this morning, you know, being in the shower, the beauty, the magic in that little thing. What a great reminder. What a great reminder for me, for our listeners, especially in these times of lockdown and whatnot. It is so important. It's the putting in the right perspective of abundance, so valuable that the moment you can see the beauty, the joy, the magic of these little things, how suddenly all these lofty, huge things and the achievements and the accomplishments and all of that becomes secondary,
yeah.
because deep inside we are already whole,
Mm,
we're complete.
mm,
And it is that completeness
mm-hmm,
that we are all pursuing at the most primordial level, at the deepest level.
mm,
So giving that as a reminder of the moment you experienced abundance today, that sets the benchmark for our listeners of where they should truly be looking for abundance, rather than going out there and burning ourselves down or getting absorbed with the things we don't have.
yeah, exactly.
So
But for the people that are very much focused on money, is also the secret of abundance this, that at the moment you recognize it in every single part of life, then to attract money goes more easily. Is that also what is the secret about abundance, that you are, when you have an abundant mindset, it's more easy also to attract that part, that financial part?
very, very much, it's integral. It's
Mm,
integral. And yet, allow me, super cool, to
yeah.
keep it all a little mysterious for today,
Okay. Yeah.
because this remark you made, the question you asked around this
Yeah.
point of inner state is something that we'll come to extensively in the next law.
Yeah.
Shall we take a couple of minutes on the first law, the law of exchange?
Yeah, let's do that. And
Yeah.
what I find there very interesting is that it is a universal law. It's a universal law that is actually always in your mind. It's always true, right?
Very much, very much. It is the law of exchange is also the most primordial law, if you want to put it that way. You know, if you look at this manifested plane through the
Mm,
wisdom of the holistic tantra,
mhm,
there is a realization
mm,
that everything that is manifested operates in this plane that exists between the masculine and the feminine consciousness.
yeah.
So there's a playground, a force field that exists within the masculine and the feminine consciousness, and it is in that field that all of manifestation happens.
Mm,
And that play of manifestation is this exchange. It
yeah.
is this giving, receiving, giving, receiving. That is the constant nature of that field. And
Mm,
the funny thing is,
mm,
if, and this is common sense, I'm sure anybody would recognize this. If I stop giving
mhm,
or stop receiving,
mhm,
then my universe will just cease to exist. That universe,
mm,
whether it is universe in the cosmic sense,
mhm,
or it is universe in the sense of, let's say, my family
yeah.
or my community or my friends circle, if I stop giving or I stop receiving, that universe will collapse.
Yeah.
It's common sense. In a relationship, for example, you stop giving, and after a while you will start noticing that relationship doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
So that is the integral nature of giving and receiving. So the first law says the universe operates in giving and receiving.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful symbolism. I'll come to that. Go ahead. Cool.
No, yeah, I try to understand what you're saying. So giving and receiving, I have to think about the symbol of yin and yang, like they are like complementary to each other. Um, at, at the moment you give, uh, the universe is built in such a way that receiving is at that moment also applied, or how do I have to see that?
Can you expand on that? What intuitively know about the relationship of giving and receiving, and if there is any need, I can build on that.
Okay, okay. So, for instance, a lot of people speak in the West about karma. I know that karma is, yeah, it means experience. But a lot of people think that if I give and I keep giving, I will receive in some magical way from the universe. Because
Hmm.
I am someone that gives and gives. Is that how the universe in your mind works? That when we give, at some day we will receive.
Ah, absolutely, absolutely. If you give, so shall you receive.
Hmm. And
Plain, simple.
that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily means that you will also receive it from the same person if you share something with him or her.
It is absolutely, and that is a non local nature of the universe, which is the fifth law. So, if we would wait for a few more weeks, when we come to the fifth law, I'll go very deep into this non local nature of the universe. However, to this point you raised, Kuhn, if you give, so shall you receive. Now, how much and when, all of that would depend on the quality of your giving.
Because I know a woman. She was someone that was always giving, 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 and she got a burnout because she was only actually capable of giving.
That, and with all compassion, Kuhn, with all compassion for that person, I want to remind myself that is not true giving.
Hmm.
You know, I myself have a great example, a story that I've very often shared with many people around, this not true giving,
Hmm.
giving that is not expressed from a place of expansive consciousness. And this is a story of once, um, a number of years ago, I was offering a talk in South Africa, in Durban. And there must have been like 1,000 plus people in the audience. And somewhere in between um, the talk, there was this one lady, she just burst out crying,
Hmm.
loud sobbing. And I stopped. I stopped there. I just stopped there, and the entire auditorium, we just held space for her to be with her pain. And a couple of minutes later, I just asked her, like, is there anything that you wish to share?
Hmm.
And we were actually touching on this, on this idea of giving in that moment, when she burst out crying. And she blurted out saying, I have been giving and giving and giving, and now I'm exhausted.
Hmm.
I'm tired of giving. And she went on to say, she has two teenage kids. And what do? They tell her, Mom, if you don't give what I want,
Hmm.
then I don't want you in my life.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she went on to say her husband
Hmm.
would tell her, like, um, you're not doing what a good wife does.
Wow.
And she had two aged parents who would
Hmm.
often tell her that, you're not being a good daughter. And the way she would respond to these three impulses from her children, her husband, and her parents were to give as much as possible and more.
Yeah.
So she would try to respond by giving as much as she can. And I was holding space for her when she shared that. And I just unpacked or dissected something that she shared, that what is she doing when her children tell her, like, if you don't give, then I don't want you in my life. What is that triggering within her, within me, within us? And the simple realization is, it's fear, the fear of losing love. In her case, um, when somebody says to us, like, I don't want you in my life, the fear comes up of losing love. And we try to give as much as we can in order to keep that love. And that was precisely what was happening in her life. And with her husband, whenever her husband would tell her, you're not doing what a good wife would do, she would respond by trying to give and give and give.
Hmm.
You know, when, say, for example, and I've mentioned this story in the book, by the way, The Seven Mystical Laws of Abundance. Say, Kuhn, um, when somebody tells you, Kuhn, you screwed up, or you promised to do something, but you didn't do it. What does that trigger inside us?
Yeah,
It's
it triggers it could trigger an emotion of that you didn't held your word, or that you're not good enough. Actually, that is what it's triggering.
it creates guilt
Yeah.
when I'm told, you screwed up, or you did something wrong. It makes us feel guilty. Kuhn, you dropped that mug on the floor and it broke.
Hmm.
You know, stating something like that to you, for most people, it triggers guilt. And in the case of this lady, the response to that guilt was to give as much as she can so that that feeling of guilt disappears.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
And with her parents saying, you're not being a good daughter. And whenever we are told that you're not a good human being, you're not being a good man, you're not being a good father, when your beingness is questioned, for most people, the egoic response is one of shame. And in the case of that lady, she would respond again to that shame by giving more and more and more against her, the will of her spirit. That for me is not true giving. When you give in response to fear, guilt, or shame, or one of the many other, 47 other egoic manifestations or egoic responses. That is not true giving. And when we don't practice true giving, don't be surprised that we also don't receive. And the opposite of that, cool, is, I'm wondering if the question is coming up for you or in the minds of any of our listeners. If this is not true giving, which evidently isn't, then what is true giving?
Yeah. Well, the beauty is that you just shared actually the qualities of the ego. Actually, the ego that is triggered by guilt, shame, anger. Um, but if we can actually observe that we can see that the emotion is arising, and see that we are not necessarily that emotion, it's just something that comes up because someone has a statement, which is actually that statement says more about the person than about the person that receives the statement. But if you can give from a place of beyond guilt, shame, and anger, so let's say a place of your authentic self, then you give from a place of who you are, and you are more in your power. You're more who you actually, yeah, how you are born. Because
Wow.
when we're born, then fear, guilt, shame, anger, we're not yet there as they are 30 years later. So I think, yeah, just
Beautiful.
be yourself.
Uh, that's what a great invitation, Kuhn. What a great invitation to all our audience. Be yourself. Just be it instead of just do it. I like that. Yeah. Absolutely. You shared a very priceless wisdom, and that is to transcend these egoic manifestations like fear, guilt, shame, and 47 other expressions. True, transcend it. Do not respond to it. The more and more I respond to fear, guilt, shame, and all those other egoic manifestations, the more I'm conditioning myself to become like that. It becomes my new nature. So, disobeying those inclinations is a great piece of reminder that you offered, Kuhn. There is something very down to earth when it comes to abundance creation, though, and how we can practice the law of exchange, or how we can practice true giving that is in alignment with the law of exchange,
Yeah.
so that abundance gets manifested in our life. True giving has got three simple qualities, just three simple qualities. One is, to the extent possible, I give with a pure heart.
Hmm.
That means I'm giving something to you, Kuhn, not because somewhere deep inside I'm, engineering in my head that, what, Kuhn is like a wealthy guy. He's got like, carriage bike that one day he's going to give to me. So let me be nice with Kuhn. You know, Pure giving is not that. Pure giving has no agenda. Like I notice that with my two little kids very often. They would just give for the joy of giving.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is no agenda to that giving. It is nothing selfish about that giving. That is pureness in the act of giving. That is one of the three qualities of true giving. Giving with a pure heart. The second one is uh, giving with passion. What does that mean from the mystics? When you're giving, you're not half-hearted. You're not divided inside. Like, I don't know, should I give this? There's a part of me saying I shouldn't give, because if I give this, then one day, 7 years from now, I'll need something like this and I won't have it. So I'm not sure. You see, that is inner division. And passion, um, at least in the way the mystics mean it, is not that. Passion is this complete, lack of inner division, the space of oneness, union within, undivision within, from which you give. That means every cell in your body feels like, yes, I want to give this. And I've noticed that a lot in you in these weeks, coming to the launch of this podcast. The intensity with which you were going at it, the investments you were making, and the clarity that you had, that is, the Sanskrit word for that is dhrityutsaha.
Yeah.
So, it is that lack of inner division, that passion, the intensity. That is the second quality of true giving. That at the cellular level, that you want to give. And the third one is detachment from the outcome.
Hmm.
That is it. You know, you give and you just give it, and the story is closed.
Yeah.
You're you don't care what comes back to you, whether from a coon or somebody else or nothing. You're completely detached from the rewards, from the outcome. You're zen about how it is received by the other person. Now, just completely detached. There's no entanglement to the result. That is the third quality.
But that is
Uh,
quite interesting because you share how to attract abundance in your life, and then you say be detached. But at the moment you want to attract abundance, there is already an attachment there, right? So it's the snake that bites its own tail.
oh, very much. I like to call it the trap of knowing too much. That, yeah, the moment you know how abundance works in your life, what is the trick to attract abundance in your life, and you read through the seven mystical laws of abundance and whatnot, and you understand how the laws function, and then like, true giving is being pure, passionate, and detached. And then it becomes very difficult to practice true giving. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that is where the trick is. After knowing all of this, How do we transcend all this knowledge and return to innocence?
Yeah. So there is a beautiful question. So you have this knowledge, that the abundance is there when you are detached, but actually you're saying detachment is abundance because you are no longer absorbed in the outcome. Is that how I have to understand this wisdom?
Very much. And with that last statement, Kuhn, you touched upon the second and the third laws. So, which is something that we'll go very, very deeply into next week and the week after. So, shall we just play with a little mystery for now?
That's okay.
Yeah.
But I will keep this question in my mind somewhere. Um, Abundance. It has three qualities. So that is share with passion, be detached, and the first one was
Was it pureness?
pureness. Exactly.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
be to
But
be
remember,
yeah.
those are the three qualities of true giving,
Ah,
not
okay.
the qualities of abundance,
Okay.
but it is the qualities of true giving that will automatically attract abundance.
Ah, okay. It's one step before that the abundance can come into your life. Now I understand you even better. Yeah.
There
So
you go.
now, the thing is with abundance that I see that a lot of people try to see abundance in their life, and what I noticed is that for some it could be self realization to find themselves, to find peace with themselves. Others are more focused on health, um, and some are very much focused on money. Um, are they for you all examples of abundance, or is it for you limited to one cause?
Uh, I'm trying to remember last week in the podcast if we touched upon this or not. I've been speaking about this so often these days, in the last months of lockdown to so many people in so many platforms. I'm even forgetting if we explored this last week. Never mind, never hurts to repeat because repetition is a very valuable exercise for mastery. Um, Again, um, the one thing that I've learned in my life, Kuhn, around abundance or about abundance is um, we should not put our mental models or definitions on what abundance is.
Mm,
Abundance is what it is for you. That is
mm,
what it is. For somebody else, abundance could mean something else. A meal, one meal, can be abundance for somebody who is starving. Whereas, a word, a text message can be abundance for somebody who is suffering from isolation. And, the ability to move an arm could be abundance for somebody who is bedridden with a stroke. Um, for somebody who has been facing repeated failures in life, one tiny victory can be abundance.
yeah,
So its abundance is subjective. So the one important thing that standard that I maintain, Kuhn, in my life is, I don't try to impose my definition of abundance or what is abundance for me upon you or anybody else.
yeah.
Um, though abundance can mean different things for different people, there's one absolute common denominator that will bring abundance in our lives.
And that is
I was just playing a little bit with the tension here. Yeah. um, that is cultivating this inner state of abundance consciousness.
yeah. So,
And you did it fantastically earlier in our conversation by sharing that moment when you were in the shower. It's a Thursday, so it's your day of taking a shower, right? Um,
once a month, yeah.
okay, oh, it's okay, all right, okay.
No, no,
I
no.
thought it was
Every day.
once a week. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That moment, the way you put it
Mm.
was for me absolutely heart opening,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
the way you put that was exactly an expression the, the of inner abundance. The way you put it, that if we can hold that inner state within for 1 more minute, 3 more minutes, 1 more hour, if you can get to even an hour of being in that state of abundance consciousness, the transformation that you see in your life is exponential.
Yeah. So the abundance consciousness, being your true self, your authentic self. I mean, I hear now my children play downstairs. They're full of life. Uh, I see there also a lot of abundance, by the way. But I mean, I think you explored it already beautifully. That abundance is actually here and now. We can see it everywhere. But to dive a bit deeper into it, you are actually setting up now the Being Abundance movement together with a lot of people. I'm also part of it, by the way. How does abundance relate to this movement that you are setting up, the Being Abundance movement?
Very, very, very much. Of course, the dream, the ideal that I have, that we have, I must say, this is as much about you as it is about me, Kuhn. The Being Abundance movement, and as it looks, it'll be end of February or beginning of March when it'll be formally launched into the outside world. Um, you know, the dream that we carry in our heart is an abundant humanity.
Exactly.
The slogan that we've coined is elevated being, spirit of sharing, abundant humanity. Now, that is a beautiful ideal, an abundant humanity. However, when the mission that has emerged for us, for the Being Abundance movement, is to help humanity shift from a place of inner scarcity to a place of inner abundance. And
Yes.
that is the holistic prescription for all of abundance creation. Whatever abundance means for anybody, whatever abundance that people are aspiring to attract, there is one important prerequisite, and that is the cultivation of the abundance consciousness within. If that is not there, then life will just be a huge toil. And we will continue to just witness the ongoing manifestations of scarcity.
Mm.
So, with the Being Abundance movement, everything technologically that is being put together, all the wisdom, the videos, the animations, the books, the workbooks, the trainings, the podcasts, um, all the resources that is being put together is with that intention of helping humanity shift from a state of inner scarcity to a collective state of inner abundance.
Wow.
And which is not an abstract concept. It is not at all an abstract concept, Kuhn. Um, before the lockdown began in 2020, the old normal that was there. Look at the old normal. You know, it's for me, it's amusing that we would even call it a normal. you know and I don't want to sound narcissistic or insensitive, but you know Most people that I would encounter across 5 continents, most people, they had completely neglected self-care, self-realization, work-life balance. The economic inequity in societies just continue to grow and grow. The ideological polarization in politics just continues to grow and grow. People are becoming more and more disconnected from communities, not to mention at an ecological level, the kind of devastation that we were witnessing before the lockdown. Look at each one of it. If you take a step back, you will notice why this economic inequity has been growing. Inner scarcity, because of our collective inner scarcity. Look at the way we've been plundering the ecology, again, because of inner scarcity. The way we've been ignoring work life balance, neglecting self care, all the illnesses, again, because of our inner scarcity, pushing us in a different direction. So the old normal, at the root of our old normal, was collective inner scarcity.
Mm.
So if we want to imagine a new normal where whether it's health and well-being or money and materials or love and companionship or success and self-worth or wisdom and learning or self-realization and transcendence, whatever abundance means, if we want to imagine a new reality, the very, very first thing that we as a humanity, as a collective, has to do is to shift from the collective consciousness of inner scarcity to a consciousness of inner abundance. You don't do that, then we can forget our dreams. They'll
Yeah.
just remain as dreams. So
But
that is really at the core of the Being Abundance movement's mission.
yeah. Now, if we look at the pyramid of Maslow, and we know that also in these modern times that we have this 1% that has a huge part of the wealth that is there in the world. So is it also then a mission of this movement to actually capture that wealth that is now with that 1% and let it tumble it down all the way to the lowest part of the pyramid, there where the people are actually starving?
Mm. Ta-da! Robin Hood. Firstly, Kuhn, I'm somebody who has great hesitation to go binary on this,
Ah,
like 1% versus the 99%. Even within the 1%, there is the 99%. As within the 99%, there is a 1%
that's
of,
true.
yeah, this is just a function of consciousness.
Yeah.
I can give, we listen, very recently, big on the news, that one of the world's largest conglomerates, mega corporations, paid 0%
Mm.
in $0 in taxes,
Yeah.
while it registered $14 billion in profits. You also read in the same organization, employees, the employees working in that organization, they still need welfare schemes from governments in order to maintain their family in spite of doing a full-time job.
Yeah.
So you can say that is 1%. But also, there's a great example I can share of a company called Amul in India. It is one of the wealthiest organizations in India. Yet, it's one of the most generous organizations which has brought livelihood into the lives of millions of people, which has been instrumental. Amul has been instrumental in the milk revolution in India. So, just using an economic parameter for the 1% will not be extremely helpful. It'll be
Mm.
more divisive than uniting. So that's one thought. The other thought is, Kuhn, I know there are so many people who are very, very passionate about growth in GDP, growth in particular. You look at most of the policymakers and economists, they are still in that. Sorry to say, I might be sounding judgmental saying this, but this old school thinking of GDP growth,
Yeah.
it is
Profit making, eh? Profit, profit, profit. Yeah.
the thing about GDP growth. Right now, if you look at the data, and I'm more a spiritual scientist than an economist, but I'm one of my hobbies is world affairs. I love following what's happening around the world, in the world of politics, economics, all of that. I like learning about what's happening in the world. And what I've noticed, if you look at the data of the last 40 years, GDP growth has got two issues. One is the inequitability. That means, any GDP growth that is there, nearly 70% of any wealth created goes to people who actually don't need that wealth. They have already so much wealth that the next 100 generations of their families can easily live. They have that much wealth. Yet, most of the wealth goes to them. 70%. I remember reading the number in most Western countries, nearly 70% of new wealth created goes to people who don't need that wealth. It's only the other 30% that gets distributed among the other 99% of
Mm.
humanity. That is one of the two issues with GDP growth. The second one is growth, GDP growth comes at a cost, at an environmental cost.
Mm.
To grow GDP, we'll have to sacrifice our environment, our ecology.
Yeah.
The casualty of GDP growth is the ecology. So,
Mm-hmm.
the idea, the mantra of GDP growth, from a holistic perspective, from a spiritual sense, doesn't speak to me because there's no nature, there's no environment, there is no humans.
Mm.
We are basically digging our own grave. Yet, what is amusing, Kuhn, is
Mm-hmm.
humanity already has so much wealth.
Mm.
Wealth, money wise, materials wise, wisdom wise, healthcare wise, at every level: love, connection, service, passion, compassion. We have already, humanity has got so much abundance that there is nothing we need to create extra. All we need to do is to share. That is all. All we need to do is to just share.
Yeah. So I'm also myself not an economic wonder that knows all about economics. But what I do know is that GDP growth, in other words, economic growth, that is the model that we are actually having since the industrial revolution. Since the industrial revolution, we are actually all very focused on the economic growth, on the GDP. So you're actually saying that economic growth is not the solution, it is the problem. Is that what you're sharing?
We have got to a situation now where we need to be ready to shift the paradigm.
But
Where, like globalization,
yeah,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kuhn.
no. The thing is that what I've learned at school was that a company, to make it a bit more micro, is that a company has to grow in order to survive. But you're actually saying, well, no, actually, it needs to share. So there is a difference in applying, right?
It's I love where we are going with this. This is completely unexpected, Kuhn. But this is so insightful, actually, what is coming up here. That, again, we should not look at it in binary sense, like growing and sharing, or growth versus sharing. If you look at it as mutually exclusive, we miss the point. The inclusive thinking is that shift in paradigm. So, which is very much true also for globalization. If you look at the last 30 years of globalization, globalization has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Yet, allow me to, say it in the most Dutch way as possible. That paradigm of globalization is finished.
Hmm.
We've That is gone, finished. It is. You will not get any more buy-in from humanity for that paradigm of globalization. That globalization, it has done wonderful things, but now it is a completely new reality we should be ready for. And that reality is not going to be shaped through globalization.
Hmm.
It is going to be shaped by a new paradigm of globalization, not the conventional one, but that we can reserve perhaps for future conversation. The idea of abundance, just to wrap up the bottom line, I'm also looking at the time.
Yeah.
We're talking about abundance creation. We're talking about the first law of abundance, the law of exchange. Extremely valuable to remember one phrase, one statement from the mystics. Wealth grows when it flows.
Yeah.
That is it. It's You keep wealth flowing, it'll just multiply. And a beautiful metaphor of that is water. We can consider water to be a microcosm of the universe, but also a great metaphor for the first law of abundance, the law of exchange. You know, when you have water that is flowing like a stream of water, that flowing, it sparkles, it stays fresh, it's got vitality, it's got prana in it. If that water becomes stagnant, it stops flowing, that water decomposes, it decays, it becomes smelly, it stinks, it loses its prana, loses its life. That, for me, is a great metaphor for this first law, the law of exchange, the sign of which is infinity. Water, just keeping it flowing, it nourishes the water, it vitalizes the water, it keeps the prana of that water fully alive.
Yeah.
That is a great reminder before we start the closing for today, Kuhn. A great
Yeah.
reminder for us of how we should look at the law of exchange
Yeah.
when it comes to adopting it into our lives.
Yeah. I remember a statement of you that what is life? Life is energy in motion. And there you have it. Eh? The exchange, the law of exchange, it's actually moving. And well, I can apply that very much in my life, that we have to be actually, let's say, that we give from a place of abundance and not from a place of guilt, fear, shame, or anger, and that we also can receive from the same place of abundance, and we can dive in that realm even more next time. I already want to thank you so much. There is just one question that is a bit above the market, and that is, uh, if you say, well, globalization will not be the answer for the economic problems, but what will then be the answer? Let's say that we keep that for the next episode. For now, I would really love to thank you, and I guess you also would like to say something else, right? I see that you put up your finger on our live broadcast.
Well, actually, I that thought that you shared. Indeed, I love that idea. Let's examine, if the legacy globalization is not the answer, then what could be it? I love the idea of examining it more patiently in our future calls. And my closing thought indeed is, you know, uh, I want to thank you, Kuhn, for taking me to places that I was not expecting to go. That's again a
Well,
great measure of what a fantastic journalist you are.
wow, thank you. Well, thank you so much. I mean, you're also my friend, so I'm not the traditional critical journalist. I'm here actually also holding space for you, sharing your ancient and also modern wisdom. And in the meantime, I hear my children downstairs. I still have to make a door here. I think, well, actually, it's also quite amusing sometimes that I'm alive. So
There
there's
you go.
happening a lot in this
Yes.
house.
Yeah.
And for now, again, Sujit, thank you, and also thank you for our people that are watching and the people that are listening. This was already the second episode of the Being Abundance podcast, and next week on Thursday, we will be here again on 5 o'clock Central European time, and then we will get the answer of Sujit. If globalization is not the answer for the economic problems, what will it be? I'm looking forward. Thank you, Sujit.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.